right, pencils are done. Now on to inking. One of the secrets with inking is that the less you think about what you're doing, the better it often turns out. That's too thick a line. It's going to be making it thinner. There we go. That's perfect. Sometimes when it lags, it doesn't realize that you've done multiple lines. It thinks it's all one. And that can be very annoying because, as you saw, just undid something that I didn't mean for it to undo. I wanted to undo the second part of that, and it thought it was all one line, and that was very annoying. I'm drawing people sweating, and now I'm sweating. It has been hotter here than it has been in a while. Summer has finally hit. We had torrential rain for a little bit. Little sweat drops. I won't do it near the wig. Oh. The other day, I went outside in the evening with a drink and an audiobook and just watched this insane storm that came through. I was enjoying it. The lightning was purple. Don't see that very often. It was a complete mess. Earlier in the week we'd had a flood warning. It was absolutely crazy. And I don't know why that all has been happening, but it was nuts. Well, I have theories, but I will not get political on this stream. So, here we go. One of the other big things I've been doing lately is thinking about revamping my entire table setup. There are a couple big factors that I'm starting to pay attention to, and I'm thinking about doing as an alternative, and it's just going to depend on what will actually work out as I move things into new stages. One of the big things I've been looking at is getting a background stand like what photographers use to hold up my prints, and getting rid of the grid system, which I've said before on the stream. I'm not a big fan of the grids I have. They're kind of cumbersome and a pain. This would be, in my opinion, a more professional replacement. It's quicker. It's going to be hard to have it flush with the table. It's probably going to have to be behind me, which presents some new problems. But all in all, I think it's a good direction to move in. I feel a problem with that lately, however, because I am looking at flying for one of my next conventions. And I realized it's going to be very difficult to travel with this thing on a plane. Not necessarily impossible. I'm looking at a few options, but one of the few advantages of the grid system is it is pretty compact. So I've been trying to find a happy medium. That's going to be the big change. I've also been debating whether I want to start moving away from selling prints, which the whole reason I have prints is because at some cons, that's what's going to sell. At a lot of cons, people aren't going there for comics. They're going there to get fan art prints of their favorite characters and stuff like that. So that was the idea when I started making prints. But increasingly, I've noticed that I'm just not making enough from them to justify it. So potentially, I may move in a direction of selling only my original comics, and that's it. Uh, it would cost me a few sales at cons, or I could still have them there, just not nearly as prominent. But we'll see how it all ends up turning out. The It's tough because one of the whole reasons I created CosPain, the way I thought that this comic would work was I was originally thinking that I would primarily sell as prints because people go in to buy prints, and all of a sudden, here's a comic that's been specifically formatted for people who are looking for that kind of thing. So I have print versions of a bunch of my strips, and the funny thing to me is they don't sell that well. Um, I'm honestly surprised. I thought they would do a lot better than they have been, but they don't really seem to interest people. I talked about this with my good friend Trixie, who's come up way too often. She's a big influence in here, so I can't say that it's undeserved, but I do end up talking about her a lot. And one of the things she brought up is that the prints, many of which are pretty big, are not what people are really going to be looking for. That I ought to make stuff that's pocket sized, which is how I came up with doing the mini collections. And those are currently my bestseller. So if I wanted to move in a different direction, that's what I'd be pushing more of. But I'd forgotten the side straps before, so I'm just going to get rid of them. Let's go. Oop, there. Oh, that did not. There we go. Not going to worry too much about the shoes. They're only seen in one panel and barely. Oh, there we go. Let's see. That's crazy. I made a list of the talking points that I could have on this show just so I know what to talk about. I've actually covered most of them. That went much faster than it should have. This, what I had in mind when I came up with this particular joke, I mentioned at the beginning what the basic concept was behind it, but I was specifically thinking of Otakon, I want to say 2015. It was still in Baltimore, and I was there helping. We did a number of outdoor shots, and one of the important things to know about it that year is that there was a heat wave. It was crazy hot, and uh, I was there with Trixie again, and she was cosplaying Velvet Crow from again Tales of Berseria, and that is, let's just say, a pretty well ventilated costume. And she was nearly dying of heat stroke. So you know it was bad. I was very thankful that uh, for that particular con, I was not in cosplay because I would have been melting, regardless of what I was in. So I was the guy who was off to the side with the bags and the stuff to keep you alive, uh, as in water. This arm looks terrible. There, much better. So one thing I've been thinking about doing with uh, these streams, and I'm looking into what it would require, but I would kind of like to find a way to do music on them. And I'm only going to do it if I can find a way to do it legally. Some people will be like, yeah, just stream it. Who cares? YouTube cares. And I replay these on YouTube. And I'd rather not get demonetized by a bot who didn't even pay attention to what I was doing with it. One of the main ideas I've had was there are these great lo-fi hip-hop uh, stations that pretty much exist to provide music you can chill to. I'm going to sweat here. I want to see if they have a version that is royalty free that I can use. Some people might say those are royalty free, you're being stupid. I need to make sure. And I wasn't able to tell from looking at their basic information. As far as I can tell, they're not royalty free. They've gotten permission from their individual artists that are on there, and I would need to do the same and theoretically run it myself if I were going to have anything along those lines, which I would prefer not to have to do. Let's see. Oh, I need to finish the hammer. That's what I'm forgetting. But if that can be arranged, be a big, big help. Now you. Since it would give me less pressure to keep talking the entire time. Like, as I said before, I have no problem talking about myself, but there are sometimes situations where, especially when I'm working, it's really hard to keep your mouth moving. And if there were a little bit of music, that would be nice. That'd be very helpful to me. I'm sure you all would appreciate it just as well.